Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the District to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas, on the 10th day of October, 2018, at the hour of 5:30 p.m. For consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on October 5th, 2018, at 11 a.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551-041-551-050, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of the said meeting. We do have the presence of a quorum. All board members are present with the exception of Rick Wells. Item 2, if I may please have everyone stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we ask you for your guidance today as we try to make the best choices for our community. We ask you for wisdom in all of our decisions today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Moving to item 3, invitation to the audience for public comments. Board, staff, audience, anyone like to say anything at this time? Moving to item number 4, consider and discuss for possible approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on September 26, 2018. Everyone had a chance to read the minutes. Questions, comments?
Move we approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Houston,
Second.
seconded by D. Wells. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving to,
I'd like to interrupt you I'd like to jump to item number 7, so we can discuss the financial plan,
okay,
and then we'll go back to the general manager.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to advance to item 7, consider and approve to adopt a plan of finance to fund water meter project and other improvements.
Just, I'd like to give you a little background about why we're bringing this item today before the board. So on September 26th, the board authorized the district to seek financing for the AMI meters from the Texas Water Development Board rather than paying from the fund balance or issuance of the private placement revenue notes, which are still under review by the TCEQ. The Texas Water Development Board notified us that they could possibly finance the meter project, but that would involve stopping the work, which is ready to begin. This project delay would be expected about 2 months, with the proceeds available in February after the expected completion of the installation. This timeline would require full payment to be made by the district general fund, with the expectation of reimbursement once proceeds are available.
Eddie, why is there a delay? If we were going to fund it ourselves temporarily, on an interim basis.
Why stop work?
Yeah, I don't understand why
The Texas Water Development Board financing requires us to comply with certain federal regulations. So some of those would be like the American Steel Act. There's also the Davis-Bacon Act requirements, because the Texas Water Development Board gets their financing from the federal government. So there's some laws that are enacted by the federal government that we would have to comply with when we get their financing versus the private placement revenue notes, which are done by banks, and we don't have as many regulations that are associated with those. And those costs. Yes.
Or if I could just add to that real quick, the environmental clearance can't be done after the fact. That's why if we're going to go through that, or to get the environmental clearance to go through the state loan, we'd have to stop any progress on install until that clearance is taken care of.
Clear enough.
Okay. And so some of those would add additional cost to the project and would reduce the expected savings from the lower interest rate. I also want to...
Any numbers to go along with that statement?
Yes, I do have a breakdown of the Davis-Bacon Act and its effect to our labor cost on the installation of the project. So that breakdown you received in your packet, but the bottom line is it would add about $80,000 to our installation cost.
By going with TWBD.
Correct. Yes, yes. I also
Total
want to give
overall.
you another important factor is if we're going to delay the timeline, I want to give you a reminder. I don't think we've talked about this maybe in a while, which is the current status of our system and how it affects our billing and our customer service. So I want to give you just an update of the current status. So consumption warnings are notifications from our billing that there's something wrong with one of our meter readings. These can be an unread meter.
Is this new information you give? Sorry to interrupt, but
Yes,
I don't have
this
the
is something
information.
that I wrote.
It's not in my
Yes.
packet.
Correct.
So
correct. This is something that I wrote up today. So I'm just going to read it to you just so that you get an idea. I didn't have this information when I prepared your packet. So I wrote it down so I don't miss anything. Sorry.
Thank you.
So these can be an unread meter, or an abnormally high reading, or a zero reading, or an idle account. All these are consumption warnings. Lead staff to manually read, or we call them verify, the meter readings. Our current state of the meter equipment failure is usually caused by transmitter failure, leading to unread meter readings. So the number of unread meters has risen from 250 in September of 2017 to 1,277 in September of 2018. So this is per month, these numbers are rising. The large number of meter readings to be verified requires additional labor hours and the cooperation of various departments to pull staff away from other work to assist in this work. And the short period of time between getting the readings and billing the customer, combined with the manual verification, so these people are manually writing down the reading that they're seeing on the meter. They're writing them down on paper, bringing those back to the office. The manual verification. This process also leads to the possibility of billing errors. The equipment used to collect the automatic...
Hey, can we stop here a minute? It seems like at our last meeting, this board decided the route to take. Now, it seems like
Well,
tonight...
we decided to discuss it and bring it back to us in this agenda
Yes.
item.
For today's meeting.
You gave us permission to apply.
I recall,
But I think we gave him a clear indication of the way we wanted to go.
we were talking about you said the 300,000 to bring it back, and it's a lot, budget adjustment in my mind.
No, you're
And
talking...
he's
it's
bringing-
another 300
I know, but it's the same thing, go ahead with you're right, I'm sorry. But then it was go ahead, I'm sorry, you're
We're
right.
bringing it back.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Requested.
the reason we're bringing it back is because the last time you told us that we could seek funding from them. So now that we went ahead and started the application process, found out all of the requirements that would be involved, and so now we have additional information that we didn't have at the time. At the time, it was, do we have permission to go and talk to the Texas Water Development Board about getting a loan, when that wasn't what we had originally decided in the first place. Now you gave us permission to apply, so we started that process, but now we found out that there's additional requirements, and what that cost is going to be to fulfill those requirements.
You've identified that as $80-some thousand, potentially additional cost to use the Water Development Board
Yes.
funding. All right,
And
what
now
you're getting
I'm talking
into
to
and this
now
other stuff,
is
with no
what-
disrespect, you're telling me about a maintenance issue. You're not telling me a viable reason for not waiting 2 months. You're telling me of 1,000 faulty meter readings, and that's a maintenance issue that I could take and interpret that as a neglect of keeping them up to snuff.
No, this is our meters that
It
we're
didn't
talking about,
happen
which we're
overnight.
talking about the meters that are
Current
failing, which we've
meters,
been
the
talking
Badger
about
meters.
for over a year, from my understanding, that we've been talking about.
And
By
replacing meters.
delaying and placing this with the water, Texas Water Development Board funding comes with more strings, and it's gonna take us more time. The delay in the time of the installation is where he's going, that it will cost us.
Yes.
And by going with that delay.
But it sounds like to me we're
So I'm
talking about...
giving you an
we're-
update on the
it
current
sounds
status
like-
of the system.
Excuse me. It sounds like we're talking about $80,000 more or less in a couple of months. Is that it?
Correct.
That's it. All these other issues, like Doyle says, if we're waiting 2 months, we got to read more meters, we do, that's, put that to the side. We were looking really at dollars and cents
Well,
of self-funding it versus borrowing the money.
I want you to consider how it's affecting our customers.
Can you tell us, staying with the
billing.
dollars, sorry, staying with the dollars, that's where I, one bite at a time with this, staying with the dollars. Can you tell us what we would save on the interest rate and projection on going to Texas Water Development Board funding, knocking out the 80,000 or whatever it's gonna cost us to, additional cost to borrow that money? And then what it would be over the period of time that we would save during that period of time? We haven't heard that yet.
Okay, yes, we're gonna talk about that.
I want that separate, apart from maintenance issues.
Okay, so when do you want me to finish
I want to
an
know.
update on this?
I'd like to
on
know if
the-
it's 6 o'clock.
At 6
I'd like
o'clock?
to, I would like to know, meaning you're again building a watch, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to know the numbers of what we would save in interest by
Okay.
going to Texas Water Development Board, and then subtract the additional cost to do that. What is that number? And then let me take that number and file it in my mind, and then go ahead and weigh that against the other things that you're telling me that are very relevant to the overall scope of savings or not.
Okay, I wanted you to be aware of how this affects the billing and how it affects our customers, but I can bring this to you in
Well,
the
it's in the
future.
report that Mr.
Yes,
Rose is
what
coming
you're
back.
asking for is what the presentation that follows, which is from Estrada and Hinojosa to talk about.
Well, if you want to give us your projected number of cost to divert, and then we look at what he has to give us, I'll be glad to try to.
Okay, so
Explain that too.
with that, I'm going to turn it over to the presentation, the financial presentation from our financial advisor, Noé Hinojosa from Estrada and Hinojosa.
Thank you.
Good evening. You have a little booklet out there. Just go to page 4. And if you go to page 4, this is a pretty comprehensive analysis of only your revenue debt. So I'm skipping page 1 that I really want to go back to in a minute. But just to address your concerns, if you look at the 4th column from left to right, you're going to see revenue notes, private placement, 10-year financing. So if you borrow to fund $2.5 million, you will need to finance about $2,940,000. I'll get into details in a minute on that. The rate that we're using there is at 3.6%. So if you were to borrow this $2,940,000 over 10 years at a 3.6, your total interest cost would be about $540 at the very bottom. That'd be the sum of doing the private placement financing. If you were to go to the Water Development Board today, they're quoting you about a $243. We're a broker-dealer house. We play in the markets every day. We make positions on municipal bonds every week. And I will tell you that the expected interest rate for this financing will be at about 3.1% today. But we use 3.6 as a way to always be conservative in our representations to you as a district.
Excuse me, Noe, but
Yes, sir.
what's the difference of the par amounts?
The par amount is basically, if you go over to page 3, I think it's page 3. Okay, go back to page 2. Page 2, you got 3 columns there. And the one that we're making reference to is the water meters and private placement financing. That's what's on the agenda for tonight. And the water loan. So $2,940,000, in order to fund that, you need to have a debt service reserve fund funded at about $357,000. That's a required reserve for the benefit of the bondholder, whoever ends up buying that bond. That is not for no other purpose but to put it outside in a bank in case you get hit by a hurricane or something and you can make that payment on that annual basis. You tap in there and pay the bond issue that given year. And then you got about 60 months to replenish that. That's something that is basically required on a private placement offering. Our intent, if you were to feel like, hey, let's go take this approach, is to give us the green light, and then on the 24th of this month, in 2 weeks, we will come back to you. We will send this to about 17 banks across the state, across the country, and whoever gives us the lowest interest rate, that's what we award it to. So we're using the 3.6 as a basically a hypothetical, to trying to cover the base in case we end up being higher. You've probably seen interest rates in the last 2.5 weeks. They've gone up on the 10-year Treasury. I priced a deal about 3 weeks ago. The 10-year Treasury was at 2.99. Yesterday was at 3.21. Close today at 3.17, almost 0.25% higher.
How do we go from 2,000,009 to 5,400,000 on the TWE? Page 2. Private placement on the 2,000,009, the par amount.
Yep.
But if we go to TWDB, it's 5,425,000.
Okay, the 5,425,000 is a separate project. You got 2 projects going on here. The 2,000,005 has to do with water meters,
Yeah.
and the other has to do with other projects related to lift stations and sewer lines, rehabilitations, other stuff. So that project was applied to by the Water Development Board, in fact, to the Water Development Board, and it got approved for those specific purposes. My understanding was that when you went out to the Water Development Board and presented your needs, they said, what else are you doing? Oh, we also need to get some water meters. Well, we can qualify that too.
But see, with what you've given today, there's no way we can compare. Because the private placement is just for the water meters,
Yes.
as the other is for the water meters plus.
We're coming to you with a resolute approach. We're already telling you, based on what we know, what your staff has shared with us, is that because of the need for the water meters to be done quick, the private placement is a better option for you. In lieu of the fact that if you go to the Water Development Board, the Water Development Board is going to require you to additional regulations, compliance with.
No, but no.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
The answer that Mr. Wells and I were looking for,
Mhm.
I think I'm speaking for Mr. Wells, is
Yes.
what's the difference between the private placement and the TWDB for the meter purchase only? And you-
I took you to page 4, and if you look at that column that says interest.
I know, but that's for the 5,000,004.
No, that has to do with the 2,000,009 financing.
Well, then, you're saying it's 1.1,
No, just follow me. 4th column at the very bottom, it
Page
says
four.
540.
We're back to page 4.
page 4, yeah.
It says $540,000.
For the private
That's
placement.
over the life, yes,
That's for
at
the
a
private
3.6%.
Right, I understand
So I
that.
just told you that the Water Development Board gives you a better interest rate. So the interest rate that they quoted you back when you went was at 2.43. Today, if you go to their website and you go to the Clean Water SRF fund, they call it, they will quote you at 2.43. Well, the
Excuse me,
spread, yes.
no, please.
Yeah.
What I want, you see where you have par amount 2.9 right there?
Yes.
For the private placement, I want that same 2.94 over here. In that column, that's the only way I can determine.
I'm telling you, I was not expecting that specific question.
Well, I can understand you might not-
But I can get you that by just following me. Think of this. You got a spread of 3.6% and 2.43%. It's a differential of 120 basis points. you're borrowing $3 million. So that means that the difference is going to be somewhere between $240,000 or $170,000 thereabouts, between a 243 and a 360, out 10 years. So we agree that it's somewhere between 150 and 170. That's the differential interest cost for going to the open markets at a 360 versus the Water Development Board. Then we're told specifically that by going to the Water Development Board, you got to pay an additional $70,000 or $80,000 for having to comply with Davis-Bacon. So the spread between one and the other is about $70,000 or $80,000. That's what you will be paying more by going to the open market than going to the Water Development Board. So then the question you have to make is it worth me waiting another 2 or 3 months for having to get a financing that is going to cost me conceivably $70,000 or $80,000 more? That's a policy issue. You have to make that issue. Yes, sir.
In my recall, and I think what we're getting into is some conflict of what I recall the board asking for at the last meeting. In short time, we said, well, we'd like to know the options of, the water board loan, lower interest rate. And we asked staff to go ahead and tell us what we could, find out about that. You said that when you talked to him, you said, well, we got some other projects we want to throw in there too. I don't recall the board indicating that. You can go back and read the record and review it if we said lump it all together or not.
I think I was referring to the
Yes,
to the Water Development Board.
Can I make
Not
some
your-
clarification on, there are two projects that we are working on. Charles and I went to the Water Development Board to get the funding for the $5 million, with the $5.6 million. We laid on the table that we were installing water meters, and they said, hey, that's great, we'd like to fund that also.
Right.
We brought that back. That information and what they could do and what the availability of funds they could do was real fast. If we would have started with them initially from the very beginning, it would have been a whole different deal with the
Okay.
Water Development
So we're still
Board.
talking about the 5.4.
That's already been done and funded.
That's-
The 5.4 has already
It's
been
been
done
approved,
with
not
water.
funded.
Well, yeah, correct, excuse me, correct.
Approved.
It has been approved and we
But
are,
we
we are on
were-
track to proceed with
So
that.
we said throw in the meters.
What can you do for us on the
And they
meters?
said, yeah, we can do that.
Yes.
So that's what this conversation is about right now.
Yes.
Mr. Houston is saying, stay with the meters so I can wrap my head around
Yes.
that.
Exactly.
And it comes with strings from the
opposed-
Water Development Board.
Well, we're still trying, and
Yes.
I get back to my watch analogy. I still want to know what time it is. What is the bottom line, for that? And another thing that's been said, and that you were told, was that we need the meters now. Well, we haven't decided that as a
Well, I've been
board.
told by your staff.
Yeah.
not
Staff,
necessarily-
and
yeah.
that's what I want to clear up.
Yeah,
That's open for discussion
Sure.
with the board.
sure,
I'm not, individually, I'm not feeling the snap,
yeah,
okay? So if we can save considerable amount of money, that's what I was trying to base my
Sure.
decision on.
sure.
And based on just for the meter project, as opposed to what we've already got approved
Sure.
with them.
So this Scott,
Yes?
this 5.4, does that include the meters?
No,
Oh, so that doesn't even include the meters?
no,
They're two different
two
projects.
different projects.
Okay, well, see, I thought it was all lumped together.
Yeah, I think we're having some clarification. We have to get some clarification
So
on the two projects.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can provide some history on
Yes.
that. Essentially, back in February, January, we made that decision to go to private placement, and with the understanding that we didn't do the procurement for disadvantaged business enterprises.
The private funding for the meter project.
For the water meters, correct.
Correct.
And so we went up there on September 20th, and they noticed in our description, we have this certain amount of money
Correct.
for private placement, but hey, come to us. And so we started way after the fact, trying to consider.
We started too late.
Yes, correct.
Maybe.
And so, since that they told us that not having the DBE isn't a deal breaker, but we lose 30 points on the financing. And so we dove to the next step. Okay, we have to add supplemental conditions to the contract, and that includes Davis-Bacon and American Iron and Steel, which we haven't even addressed American Iron and Steel at all. We don't know if the inventory that's sitting in our warehouse even meets it. And then the big part in between that caused us to stop install.
Wait a minute, the stuff sitting in the warehouse, that would be the Ferguson meters.
Correct,
They can answer that question.
correct.
So why isn't somebody called them up and said, hey,
Yeah, we don't have the answer today. I mean,
well,
that's
you guys are sitting there to do that stuff,
correct.
instead of telling me now that you haven't.
So on the funding, yes, the private placement is a little higher in percentage rate, the Texas Water Development by 1.25%, is that,
Yeah,
what's the
1.2.
number? 1.2%. But the Texas Water Development Board, and Noe got it thrown into this real fast. He was doing a
Oh,
different
agreed.
presentation on
Agreed.
this. And no disrespect to Noe, I mean, you pieced it together pretty quickly. Thank you. So you just have to determine what works. Does the Water Development Board can get you the money in due time, it's gonna take longer, it's going to cost you $80,000 more up front to get the funding, or the private placement, they can proceed right away.
What are we saving on the back end from the finance cost? If we know that $80,000 there, and we deal with all the other federal requirements, okay, but then what would we save on the interest?
As I told you, about $80,000 over the life.
So we're talking about $80,000, it's gonna cost us $80,000
We're
to
going
do
to the
it.
private.
Okay, so I can wrap my head around that.
Right.
My penalty of doing it with them, I gotta spend 80,000 points to buy in with them, and then I wanna save 80,000, so we're back to where we are, we're pretty much even. My understanding is correct.
Right, and one more thing that we haven't gotten the numbers on the steel and whatever the steel cost.
Yeah, it could
You
be,
know, that they need to be American-made parts and all that. We haven't gotten those numbers yet. Charles is working on that one,
So
you
you
know,
were
to
just
get us
looking
those
at-
numbers. Now, one of the things that I did find out is on we're losing about $200,000 in our revenue right now. It seems like we don't have the revenue that should be coming in compared to last year's numbers. And it seems like the water meters are the ones that are giving us those losses in revenue. So that's at least 200,000 that compared to last year. And those numbers haven't been put together with that steel number report. So we're still working on it. It's not that we're finished, but we put this all together quick, and Noé is working on that part where he's trying to present the private placement number, which could be around 3.1% if we go that route and try to. Do we have to, once we advertise for that, we not necessarily have to go with that number?
Yeah, you have,
I mean, we
this
can-
board has authority to the last minute to
Yeah.
reject all bids
Yes.
if you don't like the interest
So-
rate. Yes, you know, so.
That's one of the things that you know, that we're thinking
I
of.
think hesitation is gonna cost us there with
Well,
the way things are going, so
Of course, and
I
that's what
understand that.
Eddie's
It
trying to
already has.
present, his issues with taking longer to purchase the meter project, the program. And we're just seeing the numbers that we're losing every month.
Well,
So-
individually, I want to stay with my focus around the cost of borrowing money from private or through the water board, and work with that. Then we can have another discussion on why we're losing money because defective equipment. And then we can have a longer conversation about why aren't we doing it to kind of get it back up to speed to, meet the revenue. In my business, if I've got empty saddles, because I don't have enough horses, and I'm feeding all these horses, I'm gonna get it fixed, and I'm gonna get everything online that I have to. I'm in a horse riding business. Okay, so I assess my loss of revenue and fix the causes of my lost revenue, and that's what I expect the district to do also.
That's the new meter.
No,
Yes, I-
it is, but I don't want, in the meantime, I don't want complacency, and, excuse me, don't take it the wrong way, that where say, well, we're gonna get new meters, let's kind of just sit back and get new meters, and that'll fix it, because, if you have a known deficiency, you attack it and you fix it.
but I think we've known for a while that these new,
No, I mean-
that the new meters are supposed to be more
But we,
accurate.
yeah, we do, but
Yeah.
then we get a report that now we got 1,000 not
Yeah.
reading right instead of 200.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And
So-
sometimes, as you know, you open that box of chocolates, and you don't know what kind of food you get. I mean, I have a client that did an entire change of meters, and they ended up having more losses. So I mean, there's a policy decision as to, do we really want that? There's the economic financial analysis that needs to be done. it's gonna give you a peace of mind that.
Okay, and from my, gentlemen, from my thinking is, what I've heard so far is that we're pretty much awash between private and,
Yes.
you know, the water board. I'm
The
glad we
only thing you-
explored it, but I don't want to be wasting your time anymore on this, nor staff's time. If we're comfortable with, it's, again, if it's pretty much a wash, then
Timing
yeah.
and funding, how
let's-
fast do you want
let's-
it?
Let's move on with that. If there was significant savings, I wanted to hear it, but I haven't heard it, so.
No, we cleared it up, but we were kind of going a long way to get there. It was getting a long way there, but yes.
So if I understand correctly, the savings on the savings that we are looking at are gonna be basically the extra cost of staying with the TWD.
Hypothetically, that's an assumption, we don't know.
It is, the fact is time. It's not even savings. Doing it private is more expensive by about 80,000 in today's market.
Is that over the life of the loan, the same period?
Yes, it's over the life of the bond. So the bond is being paid over 10 years, so it's gonna cost you about $8,000 a year.
Okay.
If you were to say everything is equal. The key here is, you know, you still haven't taken into full account the cost of Davis Bacon and the steel, and interest rates continue to be exposed to getting higher. I'm hoping, and I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed, that by the time we open this bid October 24th, the interest rates remain at the levels that we think they should remain at 3.11.
Is that your recommendation, we go ahead and, as you
Yes, sir.
propose, go ahead and bid
I
it
think so.
out
Yes.
and let's move forward with that? I can
Yes.
support that.
Thanks.
You know, I'm not happy about this process. It's taken so long to get information that we could have had 6 weeks ago almost, I think. Because
Not on the Water
it's-
Development Board funding. That wasn't available till.
Yeah,
end
you
of
brought that
September.
up, I guess, 2 weeks
That was,
ago.
we were moving towards
Yeah.
private placement.
Yeah.
Then the Water Development Board came and said, hey, we can do that.
Yeah.
So and that's where we brought to explore. I'm the one that said, let's explore the
Yeah.
funding and
I'm
let's
glad
do
you
it.
did.
And it is less money, but it will take you longer and more strings to get that
So we
money.
missed a boat by not considering a water development board earlier.
In the very beginning, that is
In the very
correct.
beginning.
And so you know.
And my comment was to, let's explore that for funding for projects in the future from the beginning. That's what my recommendation was.
All right. Saying all that, I'll
Is
make
there-
a motion to approve with staff's recommendation to go
Is
with
it
it.
is it an action item?
Yes.
Consider it, yeah.
I just got a comment.
Yes.
If that's what we're looking at, and we're looking just on that, on the meter cost, is there any advantage of us paying anything into that to try to bring that interest down?
I mean, I think we're going back to a comment given to me about the fact that you're so healthy from a financial condition. I mean, you have cash out there to offset the interest cost. I'm a believer at the expense of getting shuttier, man, that you are on the coast. If that hurricane would have come in this direction,
We'd be out.
I don't know that we could get bids on the 24th from the private sector for year long. So I'm thinking is, cash is king, let's protect the cash. Go to the financing, if you get a 3.1% or 3.6%, those are still very low rates. So preserve your cash while you're still enjoying a good financial result. And that's been an argument that I've had in this dais for the last 30 years, since we're privileged to represent you. I think that when Dolly came, one of the comments that I had with Carlos a couple of weeks ago was the fact that Dolly hit us not only on the expense side, because we had to go fix lines and stuff, we lost revenue. When you lose revenue and you lose expense, and everything we're doing here is being supported by historical net profits or historical net revenues. If you get hit by a hurricane next year, the following year, your capacity to borrow is going to be inexistent. And therefore, to me, keep an eye on how they're spending the money, how you're spending the money, and just hope and pray that we don't get hit. And that's the bottom line.
I think your, Jim, do we want to include in your motion to approve staff's recommendation, but also to go on out for bids?
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, of course.
Going out for
Private
bids?
placement.
Yeah, the private placement, yeah.
bids,
Yes.
to proceed with that.
Yes.
And if I may, this also includes the water development board loan of the 5,000,004 and change.
Yes.
So that on the
Two.
24th, if you look at page, because I want you to be clear in your mind.
It'll be
Page 8.
5.4 plus the water meter cost.
Yes. So on page 8, we will sell the water meters on the 24th of October. And then on the 14th of November, we will sell the water development board loan. So we're talking with them on how we're structuring that loan, eliminate funding reserve funds upfront, so that we can reduce our cost of interest.
Now,
Yes.
if we're gonna add the other project that's already, you're saying, but then you say that's already been approved.
Yeah, that was approved, yeah.
It's approved for, what kind of rate are we paying there?
249, 242, that's what they're quoting us today.
And you're thinking that that particular project can come in lower than that?
No, I'm thinking that that project will stay at 2.4. You really want them to help you with that bigger project.
Okay.
And you already been approved by them.
Leave it
There's a
alone.
board just like yours
Yeah.
that approved the loan for
Right.
that specific purpose. The issue is now, when we sell in December, the Water Development Board changes interest rates every month. So conceivably, the fact that we have had an increase in rates since last month to this month, I suspect that by December, we could have a higher interest rate than the one they quoted us already at 242. But by that time, they're still lower than the open markets. There's about an 80 basis point differential.
Would it be
between-
safe for me to suspect that we are gonna stay under 3 on that particular loan?
Yes,
Okay.
and I know you'll hold me to it,
Well,
Well, I mean,
as you should.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't wanna pay more for something that's
But
already
that's
been
why it's,
approved necessarily.
that's why it's best to go ahead and move on
The quicker, the, yes.
with the,
The Water Development Board guarantees that, no, don't they?
They guarantee the loan commitment, what they don't guarantee is the rate yet.
Right.
They quoted us a rate, they approved it, but what I was told yesterday by one of the loan officers, they will change that based on whatever they release.
So
on
at
a
the end of the
monthly
month, it'll change.
basis. Yeah, conceivably, yes, sir.
we have a motion to approve staff's recommendation and to also going out for bids for private placement of loan.
There's been a
Is that your
motion.
Yes.
There's been a motion
On the
made by
meters.
Mr. Houston
Houston,
and seconded by D. Wells.
yes.
Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are, none opposed, motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thanks for your trust.
Thanks for clearing it up.
Thank you, Mr. Hino. So we got there. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Take care, sir.
Are we going back to item 6?
Yes, please.
Okay. Moving back to item 6, Carlos, Director of, I'm sorry, item 5, General Manager's
Yeah,
Report.
5, I'm sorry, yes. I wanted to bring back to the board on the Water Master's report, which is a TCQ Water Master's report. The level has risen up to 51.94%. And I was hoping to get a number today, but I didn't get anything, so I believe that we're gonna have plenty of rain up there. That's gonna fill up more of the reservoirs. So just bringing you to your attention that we've already gone back to phase 1, but I'm not gonna advertise, maybe another couple of weeks, that we'll be out of the conservation plan for reasons that it may not rain as much, or we're at the level where it's the borderline, you know, so I'd rather wait another 2 weeks before we change back to phase 1.
I don't disagree, but at the same time, I remind you, we're in a business of selling water.
Right.
You know, I haven't watered my grass in a month.
Oh, you're so good.
Well, I mean,
Well,
the revenue rates are gonna suffer, I'll tell you, this past
Well,
month.
yeah, but
Not since they went up.
I agree
You
with
recommend that
you.
we go back, we can go back
Well,
phase 1 and we'll,
I mean, we could be, but I don't want to be crying wolf all the time, then we have to go back into a drought mode, but I think that's going to be changing seasonally now.
I really was
my-
expecting a report today, but they didn't send it to me, so.
Well, then individually, I would say, after you see the new report, if you
Yes.
think it viable to
Okay.
lift the
The drought
drought
restrictions.
description, that would be fine. That's my individual.
And I'd feel better if I see the report going up.
I support
Yeah, I
that.
agree with
And
that.
I'll get, report at the next meeting that
Thank you.
I did go up if I do.
Thank you.
So, saying that, I go back to the early voting locations. I just wanted to let the board know also that we posted on our website already the locations of the early voting. and the dates, from the 22nd of October to November the 2nd.
I went to the website today, there's nothing.
Uh,
There's nothing in our website about the
we
upcoming
can
election.
go to the elections,
I just went to
it's
LagunaMountainWaterDistrict.com.
under the elections,
It's on the elections.
elections part where,
I didn't see an elections tab.
yeah, go back to the elections and it'll give you a little,
Okay. Well, I was doing it on my phone, so maybe I didn't have enough screen.
perhaps. But we did give a copy to the Island Chamber of Commerce. They wanted a copy of that, so we provided one. And I am going tomorrow to drop off another copy to the Port Isabel Chamber of Commerce. So they can also advertise the dates of the early election and then the general election site also, which is November the 6th. We have 4 sites, which is Port Isabel, South Padre Island, Laguna Heights, and Laguna Vista. And also in saying that, let me see. What else? What's the other one? We have 2. Yeah, the early voting. You need to check the dates on it because they've been splitting up the, like in Laguna Vista, they're gonna split it up the first week and then the second week to South Padre Island. And actually, you can vote anywhere in the county for board members, early election, anywhere in the county. Just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
That's it. Nothing else.
Thank you, Carlos. Moving to item 6, Director of Finance report. Eddie?
I want to advise you that we sent out letters to all of our customers, advising them of the new rates. Sent out letters, English on one side and Spanish on the other. You may have already gotten some comments from
Yep.
people. And I know people that I bumped into in the streets were telling me that they got a letter from us. And we've already been fielding some calls with people specifically wanting us to recalculate their bill to see approximately how much it's gonna cost them.
And that's really pretty nominal, really, I think. So a $20 water bill is going to go to
To 2240 or something like that.
Yeah. So if someone is paying the minimum and they have a 5/8 meter, which is typical for a home, it's going up from the $25.85 to I think $30.56. So
Included
that's
sewer.
about $5 difference for somebody
Per
like
month.
that.
per month,
Per month.
10 cents a day.
Yeah, and then of course, some people look right down the line and look at what it's going to be like in 5 years and look at how it's significantly going up
Thank you.
over the next 5 years. So those were some of the comments that we got back. And I also wanted to, I think last meeting, I told you that we would have to change the meter reimbursement agreement, but that's not necessary. I talked to our bond counsel, and they advised us that the resolution that we passed covered the full amount of the funding up to 3.1 million. So he said if we made an internal restriction as far as what we're comfortable spending, that's not reflected in the resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Eddie. Moving to 8, consider and discuss the additional payment of $300,000 towards TCDRS 2019 plan assessments, unfunded liability portion, and possible action if necessary.
So, the last meeting, after the presentation, we We had a presentation from TCDRS about our unfunded liability. So this was a contribution, a lump sum payment that the board had requested during the budget process. And so now that Ms. Nieto explained that the unfunded liability is simply future employee retirement benefits, and that we are responsibly funding our plan just by paying the monthly required contribution rate. So this rate both pays for our current employees' future benefits and pays down the unfunded liability at the same time. So this payment that we budgeted, we have to make it by December 31st in order for it to affect our rate next year.
So we did a line item on the budget, we did a line item increase or line item payment, thinking that we were really far behind. We had a great presentation, we're in good shape, and we could continue. We had options of continuing as we are or make the payment. We said at the last meeting, bring it back to us, let's discuss that line item there. You're bringing it to us now on your...
For discussion.
Well, you're bringing in recommendations that you want to take and do a lump sum payment, $150,000, then you want to keep $150,000 for a Christmas list.
I think that's a possibility that
We have so many
wanted
places
to-
that need to spend that money. I can't even imagine me supporting, telling you, yeah, go dream up how you can spend $150,000.
As I recall from Ms. Nieto, she said we were paying up to meet the current plus chipping away at the deficit. Is that correct?
That's right.
So the $300,000 was originally thought to be 1/10 of the deficit and try to make that up. I agree with you all. I'm not going to give you a $150,000 blank check. But what I might suggest is that we don't do anything yet with that $300,000. I'm personally more interested in taking care of some step increases for our salary bases, or caps, or whatever you call them. But we may all have different ideas on how to use all or part of that money, but at least...
That would be the conversation to come
Yes,
to us.
yes,
And,
that's-
you know, and do that, I agree with that.
But I
We
would-
do have an agenda item to cover that.
Okay, but staying with this agenda item right now,
Yes, we're paying down, you owe the $300,000 regardless, whether you
Right.
pay it now, whether you pay it out over time. It's money that is owed.
Well, we actually owe, they say our unfunded is $3
Correct.
million.
2 million.
$2 million, $2 million. And we have...
If it all stopped today, you would be short $2 million,
Right.
is the
But-
way to put it in
But the
perspective.
way I understood her is that we're paying enough and also chipping away at the deficit.
and we-
With this bulk payment.
No, not with this. This is
Without the bulk
additional.
payment. That's separate.
Okay.
This is additional that we felt we needed to do
Just
at
by
that
paying
time.
our required rate.
Yes.
But
With our
don't
monthly
we-
payroll.
Sorry, don't we also have the option of paying a higher rate? So we're chipping away on a monthly basis to
Correct.
get it
Yes.
there instead of
Correct.
throwing a lump sum at
Yes,
it.
that is also an option.
And the gentleman just sat there and said, cash is king, and we have so many places that we need to spend the $300,000 for. I would like to consider, increasing that amount on the percentage above what we're paying now, if that's, discuss it,
That's,
and pay it back quicker that way.
Yes, so that is a way aside. Rather than do a lump sum payment, we could elect to pay a higher elected rate above our required contribution. So that was something that we could set
Well, why don't you discuss it? Why
ourselves
don't you
at
discuss it?
15%, 60%.
Why don't you go ahead and discuss it for her, but for this agenda item right now,
Just
I would
leave it as
support,
it is.
I would support you either leave it like it is or go ahead and do a budget adjustment and just put it back in a general fund,
Well, it is in the general fund.
but it's a line item.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I mean, we just leave it, don't do anything with it.
Just
Just
leave.
not do anything,
just take no action.
yeah,
Okay.
take no action.
What we can do is having a
Well,
workshop that's planned for the capital improvement, so we can discuss further items like that,
but it's,
so you don't do any action on it, we discuss it at the workshop. and, see what
But
y'all
it's
plan to do.
budgeted, yeah, but it's budgeted on, is want to make sure we don't pull the trigger and
It's not
spend
going
it.
anywhere.
But
It's
we're
not going anywhere
right. He
without-
just said we don't, if we're going to send them 300, we got till December to do it.
That's right.
So let's just take some time to,
I think we should bring this back. Staff is looking at some things they want to purchase or fix or whatever. I've got my own ideas of where we should spend it. I think we should talk about it.
Yeah.
If we're gonna break up this 300,000, then we should bring it back and talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable, like you said, Alex, I'm not comfortable,
Yeah.
buying half a backhoe.
Well, and,
Maybe
yeah, I
let's
mean-
go ahead.
Either send it all or don't send it.
Right, either send it all or don't send it, because we did say that's what we were gonna do. And the only reason we're even considering not doing it is because all of a sudden we have some other needs. And we're always gonna have other needs, but I think 2 weeks might be enough time to identify those needs and bring it back, and we'll talk about how potentially we're gonna not pay that money. So, I mean, if that's what the board wants to do, but we did say we wanted to pay it, and we do owe it, so.
Well, with the same conversation, I really would like to, Mr. Houston brought up, I'd like to go ahead and address this to staff. And we have some caps in place, I understand, for advancement, so let's maybe take and review all of that.
Yeah, and that's something else that we can talk about. I think that's a little bit, yeah.
I always advocate paying more and having less.
That's what it's for. We gotta use it. It's just a question of where we use it. so,
Sure.
Yeah.
This is an action item.
Right now?
No action.
Okay.
Oh, if necessary. Okay.
I think it was a very good idea for the lady to come down and talk to us,
Oh,
because
yes.
until she gave the presentation, I was
Yes.
under the impression that we were seriously underwater.
We've been
And
trying to
that is-
get
and that
her
is-
since
and that is
June, I
something,
think, right? But
One of the things that stuck out from that presentation, from her presentation, was the fact that we're very, very close to hiring 100 employees, which was also puts us in a different category. So that's something we also need to pay attention to, how that's gonna affect us and possibly save us money.
I thought we had like 71.
I thought we were, About 78,
Okay.
78, oh, okay.
Yeah,
We're
but
not
that's
that
another
close.
conversation.
We're not that close.
Hiring more to save some.
We've never been close to 100, like that, close to 80, but.
Thank
They
you
made it
very
sound
much.
like we were very close.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item number 9. Consider and remove from the table the following item tabled at the regular meeting on September 26, 2018. Consider and discuss for possible approval the 5-year capital improvement plan.
I move to remove it.
Motion to remove from the table by D. Wells,
So, second.
seconded by Mr. Houston. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Motion is off, the item is off the table. Moving to item number 10, consider and discuss for possible approval of the 5-year capital improvement plan.
All right, so I imagine this approval is basically, covering our budgeted plans for the 2018-19 year, and also with the loan amounts we're proposing for the water meters and the wastewater projects. That's basically what's included in here. And there's a couple of new items that aren't necessarily funded yet. For example, item 4 is the use of Proposition 2, and pursuing if we're going to relocate that project over to Port Isabel.
Yeah, that's worded differently. You worded it now, relocate seawater desalination facility to Port Isabel.
Right.
And that's all up for discussion. It really,
Right.
nothing's going there, but you have that bond money available, and so you still have a column for it, but it's sitting there.
Yeah, this is the first
No
time I had it.
decision has
as a-
been made to go
Correct.
forward with relocating or even doing it.
Correct. So, I mean, do you prefer to see that as a line item today, or just leave it off the list?
No, I was just questioning the movement, if you will. It was just a desal plant before, now it's a relocation of.
Yeah, it's just the pending task on that. It's that letter to the Attorney General, the technical base letter, which, from our last discussion back in July, that's still on the pending list as far
If
as.
they're the only ones who, I mean, if they approve it, then it's okay, we don't have to do anything different.
For the Attorney General? Yeah, I mean, the Attorney General would have to determine that, that.
It qualifies under the
Constructing the
bond.
project here is what the voters intended to vote for back in 2011.
Right.
I'm not in favor of any type of desal project.
Okay.
I do think we need another microfiltration system on plant number 1, a whole lot more important than a desal. So, I'm not in favor of spending another dollar. Now, maybe some of that stuff can be used
Not the bond money.
into a microfiltration system.
Well, our clarifiers can be pretreatment, which
Yeah.
we'll need for the MF anyway.
Things like that, but, personally, here's the thing about it is, if water gets really short, they'll cut the farmers off first before they cut off the cities.
Correct. And we have that approach of buying the water rights to secure fully,
Right.
full drought conditions.
So, that,
But we can't take it off our projects, we can't take it off
No.
the books, because it's still
Still-
a bond.
we just.
I mean, it could be beyond our 5-year plan. And so it's
My
just not there.
thought, my thought is not necessarily that I'm against the desal, it's more that, I think that the desal should be approached as more of a regional project. And I would think that our 1.8 or 16 million or whatever it is, it would be better used if we could combine with other entities to try to come up with one, if you will, major desal project, because the costs are outrageous. And I think that when you pull your monies together, the state would see that a little bit different and possibly fund it. But I think one of the things that has to happen is you'd have to create a water authority to be able to pull all those monies together. But that doesn't mean we couldn't use those monies towards something like that.
Yeah.
So, we're still
Because for
leaving,
us to compete, for us to try to have our own desal, Brownsville has their own desal, they don't, it's like 20 or 30 million over estimated cost. It only produces half of their needs. To finish the project is another 187 million. It's not gonna happen. So for us to take this on, I think we could use the monies more efficiently if we combined and made an authority in this area in Cameron County and pursued it from that
so for
aspect.
now, do you want, sorry to interrupt, but for now, you stay with us, what we're talking about now, you want to leave it on the 5-year plan?
Well, we can't do much with it. I mean, it's just gonna sit there
It's just-
until we
Yeah.
get
Sit
clearance
there.
for something.
Yeah, as far as the regional approach, the Rio Grande Regional Water Authority, which is based out of West Elko, they did a 3-county study, and this project site in the ultimate, plan, thinking about all 3 counties, was a year 2050 project. So
Yeah.
it's beyond our 5-year plan.
Well, I
It's
want to.
already in the plan.
Yeah.
I want to see a microfiltrations.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Because let me tell you what, if we start sending the water from plant number 1 to the island,
We're gonna hear
without
about
that
it.
microfiltration, this room won't be big enough to hold the people who are going to complain.
That's correct.
So we need to start planning on that.
Well, there'd be a revenue-based funding.
I know, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, put it in here somewhere, so that at least we can say, it's in our plan.
Right. And we do have a meeting tomorrow,
Yes.
and we'll talk about that, and then include all this capital improvement plan in our workshop, so we can work with whatever the board
For the
decides on,
roundabout numbers, that's about
and
10
put it in
million.
there, in the
Yeah,
CIP.
I mean, if we're gonna do the MF facility and improve our disinfection plan to get it back up to a 5 MGD facility, I mean, today it's 2.9 with chloramines. So, what are we, 2.9 MGD?
Oh, yeah.
And then in winter, we're about 1
It's a
MGD.
$10 million project, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, that's just throwing a pretty stickable
Well, this-
number.
Right,
This is
right.
just a great Christmas
Yes.
list anyway.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
mentioning that out there and for you to think about also.
No,
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, right now, the area doesn't realize all the
What's
water's
going to
coming
happen.
from one plant.
That's right.
And we're pushing that plant really hard.
And that thing craters, and then,
What would help
What an
me,
improvement it
because I don't
has
have much
made,
history here,
in spite
is
of what
to
people
actually
say and think.
somehow highlight or identify the projects that are funded, the projects that are not
Yeah, I
funded.
think it'll highlight, actually, I think that'll help. If I color code some of the cells, that'll jump out a lot easier.
That would be great,
Yeah.
because I don't have much history with some of this stuff, and at least that'll help me figure out what is it that I really need to work towards to get funding for. Because to me, the CIP project thing, this is great, but the most important part is the funding.
Yeah.
And until we identify those sources, and this, it's something we can do when we bring it back every time.
Yeah.
Is, okay, where are we at with the process of funding this particular
Right.
project?
And so as far as our rate study, I mean, it was based on the March 2017 version. That's the capital improvement plan I gave to Dan Jackson. And so, in that plan, there's another $3.5 million debt issuance in 2023, something to that effect. And that's really the remaining lift stations. But I don't even have those remaining lift stations on this version of the 5-year CIP. I mean, that could be moved to wherever we need to put it. So,
What I wanted to recommend to the board is that we have a workshop and cover all the funded and unfunded
Okay.
information in there and come back and get together and work on it.
All right, then
I'd
I move
like
we,
to-
I move we table this
Table
until the
it,
workshop.
And then do the workshop when you have your new board members on here.
Oh,
No, that's not.
yeah.
Need a motion to table.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Avalos.
Now, if we table it, is it gonna come back up
Yes, it will.
next time?
Yes,
So-
it will.
The
well, do you,
24th.
are we going to do a formal workshop prior to the meeting?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask the board, is y'all want to meet next week, anytime during the day? I know
Let's
you
just
don't
do
like
it.
to meet on Saturdays. but-
Let's do it before the regular meeting, an hour before the regular meeting.
But he won't
You're gonna
have
take more than
time.
that.
Well, he has
He
to get cracking.
Well,
Yeah, I
after
need more
we
than
give him
that.
direction for that, he won't have time to be able to bring back anything to us.
Right.
So,
it'll
okay,
take
I'll
longer
I'll
than-
retract my
than-
second.
Yeah, I mean, we have bid tabs from Water Plant 2 to throw a ballpark of Water Plant 1 in the facilities. I mean, just to at least throw a budget, see if,
We're here, we can do anything. 3 days, like. in the-
Procedurally, if we just do procedurally, for this agenda item, if we just do a no action,
Yeah.
it's just gonna die.
So just for the record, I'll retract my second on the.
And that way, then you just bring the workshop whenever you want, you bring it back when you want, but we're not loading up the agenda
That's fine.
regardless.
I withdraw my motion.
Withdraw the motion, so we're just gonna not take any action. And acknowledge a good report.
Appreciate it.
Item, so it's no action. I guess we're just going to move on to number 11, right?
Yeah.
Number 11, consider and discuss for possible approval electrical engineering services for a proposed backup generator at LMWD's main office.
Right, so yeah, this is Juan Pablo Cantu. He's the electrical engineer that submitted the proposal. And just to give you a background of how this came up was our recent power outages. We had some flickering that blew out switches in our servers, and yet another reminder of why we need to have backup power at this facility.
Yes.
And we've already ran conduit. We sort of try to do prep work. And also,
Wait a minute, you have power surges because of deficiency in the building or from the supplier?
from the suppliers.
Okay, so
Yeah, we just.
everybody had it,
Yes, correct.
yeah.
I mean, really, it's just a.
And we had a conversation before, and they brought it to us, you said, we'd like to go ahead and do a backup generator. We said, let's go ahead and start exploring it.
Yeah.
Where are the other proposals?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess from an engineering point, it should be a qualifications-based selection.
We had conversations sit here, Mr. White, Thomas was sitting right there, and he said, call electrician, have him come over here and look at your box and tell us what service we need. What are we doing?
Well, we have a Cummings generator that just got pulled off of PISCP, and we're trying to sort of bring it over here.
A 200 kW generator.
Right.
What an overkill. Come on, guys.
No, it's
A
it's the
200
generator that
kW.
we've had. We can
Oh,
move it
okay.
to Isla wherever we
Yeah.
reuse our.
A 50 kW would handle what you need. What is it, a 100 amp service?
No, it's gonna be.
I believe it's 200 amp service.
200 amp service?
There's numerous, you have, I think, 4 weatherheads, so it would be like they were separate
Yeah,
services.
we need to kind of bring it all together.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
that's a mess.
There's a little bit of a mess there, and there's a little bit of, because the buildings were put together, one and the other, and then the other, and the load
That-
was just kind of.
That's Port Isabel. We all grew a
I'm
room
not
at a time.
It happens. I guess the only question was, what would really need to be running, and what can you do?
Yes.
So-
Yeah, and that would be a determination there during a power outage. I don't think this room needs to be air conditioned or lights on.
But you might need to.
Well, it
That's
just-
what the
We-
circuit breaker box is for.
Yeah, I mean, if we do it,
That's
it's
right.
advanced system.
And we just need to be able to power our main facility to bare minimum instead of overpowering with a 200 kW generator.
We got to think
Yeah,
about the
2
5
days.
days of hurricane when we're here trying to.
Yes, when you're out for a week or a month or whatever that number is.
You may need to set up, like Charles said, a command center. You have 10 phones in here and 10 people on the phones.
And we've
And
had
we
that
move it,
before in,
Mr. Galvan's office.
2008.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what, and when we talked about doing a generator, I said, how simple is that, or how complicated can it be? But I didn't expect $100,000. to be fair. And what I did expect, if we're gonna spend that kind of money, is something to compare by. And at a minimum, a needs assessment, prior to doing all that, because, we don't know. We don't know the complications we're gonna get into, and you could very well get into it and discover, oh, I wasn't expecting this, this is gonna cost more. That's what I was expecting. If we're gonna make a purchase of $100,000, that's what I would expect.
Well, today's request is only essentially giving him an hourly rate not to exceed 11,500, where he just submit on his actual time form for whatever task is.
But no disrespect, why? No disrespect, sir,
Just 'cause
but
it is-
why? That we have a procedure and policy here. If we're gonna take and request for, service or RFP, you know,
Yeah, well,
how did we miss
Let
that
me
step?
ask
The
this.
engineering board rules, like you can't ask for prices on engineering,
Let-
you just select one on qualifications and then negotiate.
But, excuse me, Alex.
Yeah, but there's a split side to this.
You know, I'm a builder, and I can probably tell you, around 50 kW is what you're going to need. So there's probably a half a dozen firms in South Texas that put in standby generator systems. You call them up, this is what we need, give us your proposal. And we'll build your building, whatever you need. Real simple.
We got the staff to do it. $20,000 slab. We don't wanna build a new office. Just put a little beachy generator on it.
Yeah, we're talking about a generator and transfer station, and then, I don't know.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, but you're using something, you're overkill because you think you have something cheap, but you're spending $100,000 on something you think is cheap. And you're talking about way cheaper than that, 20 grand for a 50K, 50 grand for a brand new one.
Right, and that generator that we just pulled from the plant and sit here in the truck barn, I mean, that's in much better condition than what we have in Issaquah. So we could go put it to better use at a facility.
And there you need 200.
Right.
To turn a plant.
Yeah, you need the power there. And I like what Alex said, we need a needs assessment before we even go there. And, you know, disregard my comment that we don't need to AC this room, but we need a needs assessment of what we need for that. And the, you know, engineer tell us, okay, fix our spaghetti mess back there with all of our weatherheads and put them all together.
I mean, could we get some level of authorization with electrical just to take it to that direction as far as?
Why can't you pick up the phone and call the companies that do that type of work and say, this is what we're looking at, would you be interested in making a bid?
I think and I think I only asking this question only because I only have one vendor here. And we're used to working with many vendors. You know, we get competitive bidding, especially when we look at spending this kind of money. I didn't know it was gonna cost this much, but my concern is, what is the basis for your decision to do this? How did you determine this is the guy I need to go with?
And if I can, I don't mean to cut you off, sir, or interrupt your answer, but this is just an estimate of, once we do the plans and go out for bid, this is an estimate of what I had envisioned to power this building. Okay, and we're kind of headed in a direction, and then I got the phone call, hey, we're pulling this out from the sewer plant, can you use it? It's already an asset owned and operated by me.
But that
But here-
rehab,
here's
but that
my
rehab
dilemma.
is included in your proposal. You know,
Here's
repair
my
generators and
dilemma.
the ATS and
And-
all
and
that.
The thing is that the generator came out of a room, so it doesn't have an enclosure, it doesn't have a base tank.
I know that, but you're just, sorry to cut you off, Alex, but you're saying you just got this and you were working with it, then they brought you a generator and said, figure that in here.
Correct.
And so, go ahead, Alex.
If I understand what you're gonna say is that you're gonna look for people to bring in.
Correct.
Okay,
We're gonna
here's my concern. I have an engineer that does that. I have a purchasing agent that does that. Why am I hiring an additional party to do this? Is this something you guys can't handle, or?
Well, I mean.
This is my basis of my question. What was the methodology? How did you determine this is the route I need to go? Because you know how we work, you know how we operate, you know that we need multiple bids. You, Mr. Samaniego, can do the research. You have a general idea of the kind of work that we need. You might not know the electrical, we can get somebody to do that. In other words,
Under the-
I'm hiring a contractor to go out and do the bidding process for me, which I don't need to do that.
No, you're
That
hiring
was-
an engineer.
Hiring an engineer.
Yeah, this
So-
is
so
just
that was-
contract.
so
I mean,
that was-
essentially, it's
That was my question. It's
essentially,
like-
I'm trying to have them under, my department on a contract basis. I mean, that's kind of essentially a similar request. But basically.
But yeah, but that's not how we operate. We request people to compete for that business, and you're the conduit for that. You are the one that makes that happen, so that was my concern when I saw this, it's, aside the cost.
No, that's fine, I understand, that's actually a good point. The specialty I have is the electrical,
Mhm.
which is not in-house. We've done numerous projects together, and I think they've been successful. The 11,500 we're asking for is to do a needs base,
No.
to kind of do a little more investigation as to, look, we're gonna rip this out, make this one, and then that goes straight to the generator. We don't need a 200. We can get away with it.
Yeah.
I would tend to agree with you, we'll probably
I think we'll do that.
but until someone tells me, cut off right here, this is powered, this is not, I gotta make sure I'm covered. Because I don't wanna
Any
come up
electrician
here,
can do that. I mean, you can do that.
Dolly 2 comes over and we're tripping the breaker on the generator because it's overloaded.
See, I can see the, Mr. Cantu's services being much more important when we take that old generator over to Isla Blanca Park.
Right.
I mean, because you got some intricacies of, two different systems, you're gonna try to put them together, but this, it's a bigger building, but it's not a complicated thing to put a
Draws
standby
not as
generator
much.
system in. So, I'm gonna make a motion that we, take no action on this. I do see the need for his services if we take the generator over there. But for what we need here, you ought to be able to pick up the phone, find the people that do that in the valley, and start with a 50 kW. I'll tell you that's gonna be real close to what you're gonna need. Let them come out and let them spend their dime on what they think we might need. And then as far as building it, you ought to be able to build whatever building you need with the tanks for $20,000 tops. That's slab, walls, roof, tank, the whole shebang.
It's not $41,000 to install it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not in the electrical business, but I wrote crazy on this proposal, sir. Mr. Gavon,
Yeah.
were you involved with any of this? Did
No,
you- Were you
all I
aware?
understand is that Charles is not an electrical engineer, and he can't do any of that stuff, so he's always.
But were
looking
you
for-
involved with any of the conversation we had? Were you involved with what Charles, at the last
when I-
meeting?
when I saw that,
Whenever
I-
we said,
that's-
well, okay, then you should have headed this off in the past before it came to us. Because it's crazy.
I tried,
And I don't-
but it's,
Yeah,
the engineer.
Then we have a bigger problem.
Yeah,
If
the-
you tried.
The engineer is,
I move to deny.
Second.
Motion made for denial by D-Well, seconded by Mr. Avalos. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Motion carries.
Thank you for your time,
Motion
sir.
denied.
I know you got caught in the middle of
No,
this.
no
I
problem.
don't want to put it down at all.
I appreciate the opportunity.
No, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Moving to item 12, consider and discuss for possible approval of board travel to attend the Association of Water Board Directors Fall Seminar on October 30th, 2018 in Houston, and the 2019 Midwinter Conference on January 25th, 29 in Austin.
Second.
Motion made by D-Well, seconded by Mr. Avalos. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving to 13, consider and discuss for possible,
I wanted to ask if anybody's interested in,
I talked to Scott just briefly about it, and I think I'd rather wait till
Okay.
the fall.
One
The
of
one
the-
I remember going to breakout sessions. I think I'd probably enjoy that a little bit better.
I agree.
okay,
Okay, so have you read this one?
what's that,
The,
13?
yes.
I
Well,
haven't
we're
even
gonna
called it
register-
yet.
We're gonna register
I thought you,
already
Yes.
you did.
tomorrow.
Oh, you haven't, sorry.
Moving to item 13, consider and discuss for possible approval of TML property and liability insurance renewal.
Quick question. I think we can speed this up. This is what I read here. We have the option with the TML rates we have the option to renew for 1 year at rates, and there's no increase in rates.
Correct.
So it's status quo, and TML's, if I recall, years past, that's probably our cheapest rate available
Yes.
through TML. I move to approve.
Motion made by D. Wells for approval,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Houston. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are, none opposed. Thank you. Motion carries. Yes, and yes, I did read it, and yes, that was my conclusion.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving to 14, I wish I could get those rates myself. Consider and discuss for possible approval of the financial report for August 2018.
Can we go to page, the first graph, it's real helpful, but I'm a little confused. It's the general fund revenue by source, October 2017 to August 2018. Down below, I'm seeing August 2017 to August 2018.
Yes, sir. So what?
If I miss in October, why we're doing year-to-date for this fiscal year?
Yes, so what I'm doing is comparing this year through August of 2018, and that's what you have in the graph above. And then in the bottom section, what I'm doing is comparing to how we were doing last year.
August to
through
August.
August of
August to
2017.
August. Okay,
Correct.
so it's in two
this is
parts.
Fiscal year to date through August, so you can
In-
get an idea
in
of
the pie chart.
what it was last year.
The pie chart-
chart is just this fiscal year. It's just the column on the right, the second column that says August 2018.
That's,
Does that make sense?
thank you. Yeah, it does. And so revenues are down 2.5.
Yes, that's what I wanted to call your attention to, is water and wastewater services, which is the majority of our revenue, is down about 290,000 water and wastewater services.
Oh.
And I think that's what Carlos was mentioning earlier about possibly, overall, we're down about 200,000 compared to last year.
And you, in picking that up, you were attributing it to potential from faulty meter readings and things like that, or reduction in consumption, but we can't put our finger on it.
Exactly, we don't know,
But we're still up, sorry to
could
interrupt,
be-
but go on to
yeah.
the next pie chart,
Could be
next
climate
page.
related.
Yeah, but next
Well,
chart.
before you go to the next page, we know the water is down 3.7%, okay? Can you tell me, and you should be able to tell me, water treated, sellable water as far as gallons? Where are we on that?
Water produced?
Water produced or water
What's
available for sale?
We do have a report, a monthly report that we sent to TCQ on the water sales.
I have a report here. You want to know how much it's declined over the past few months, or what?
Well, what I'm saying is.
Production to sales is what
If-
you're asking?
Yeah, if the revenue's down 3.7%, is it correspondingly the production of the potable water down the same amount?
Okay.
Are we losing water?
Let me have a report on my email that I can look up that I send monthly that we can get an idea.
Can you include that in the next?
We can include it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
It's
good,
easy
that's
to
a good,
Put together.
Well, it's like if you're selling hamburgers, if you're a restaurant, well, I'm not telling Scott anything he doesn't know, but I mean, I won't talk about restaurants.
If you make 100, you should have sold 100.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, if you're down 3.7% in hamburgers and your product
Right.
cost is down that's okay, but I mean,
Or I guess your inquiry is it related to the sales or is it related to expenditures? We just spend
Right.
more.
yeah.
Well, like we track water loss, so if you see that water loss rising,
Right.
well, you know there's a problem in billing or something happening.
yeah.
And we can get you a report at the next meeting, so we can have it more accurate.
I think that's a good one. And then the
We
next
could
page, I'm
include
sort
the
of,
expenditures. If our expenditures are up, that might affect it as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, I'll give you that also.
and
expenditures.
I just took our August, I just took what we produced, the revenue in August 2018, and then I took what we've spent in August 2018. We're still a plus $1.6 million
Correct,
there, so that's a good part of the report.
yes. Yes.
And I see that if we bring the September report all together, we can estimate the whole year, fiscal year. 'Cause we're missing 1 month still.
Right,
So we get
when you get the September
full-
numbers plugged in.
full year's report.
Yes.
Be better off.
Yeah, that would be good if we get the September end of year,
Perfect.
the revenue, the gallons produced, or whatever, however you want to show it.
Yes, no.
I can give you an idea. It did go down from August to September substantially. I have the numbers here. We went from 177 or 1.7 million to, or a billion, I'm sorry, to 1 billion. So you're talking, substantial decrease.
So it went down
Yeah, it
Yeah,
has
okay.
for the past
last year's with.
2 months, or 3 months, I'm sorry, gradually declined.
But that's on a month-to-month, not,
Yeah, I don't have
that's not
percentage.
annual,
Year to
com-
date.
year to, comparable month.
Oh, you wanna,
Well, we can
2017.
get that at the next
from
meeting. That will
2017
be-
to this year, the last month, it still went down, it looks like 20%.
That's because Mr.
20%?
Houston's not watering his
Oh,
yard.
yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Conservation.
Rain hurts the business. Helps but hurts. Any other comments? Do you want to say something?
Just
Do you want to say something?
No, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
second.
I'm sorry, there was a motion made by Mr. Houston, seconded by Mr. D. Wells. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 15, consider and review the expenditures for September 16th through the 30th, 2018. Anyone in particular you want to discuss, or just acknowledge them all?
I think I had some, no.
Okay. Expenditures have been acknowledged. Moving to 16, adjournment at 6:52 PM. I want to thank